was 7 years old when a man decided Christmas was the easiest way to reach me. A week before Christmas Eve, the mall was drowning in fake cheer, looped carols, pretzels hissing, winter boots slapping tile. My mother's hand rested warm on my shoulder as she guided me through the line. When it was my turn, Santa pulled me onto his knee. His suit wasn't plush. The velvet was cheap, rubbed thin, and when I leaned close, it smelled wrong. Mildew, menthol cigarettes, something sour beneath it all. He took my hand and squeezed my fingers one by one, slow and deliberate, like he was measuring something. The plastic beard rasped against my ear as he leaned in. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Hannah." He smiled without teeth. His thumb traced my knuckle. He asked where I slept, if my window faced the street, if doors were left unlocked so no one tripped in the dark. I answered because Santa asked questions. That was the rule. In the car, my mother laughed when I repeated them. My father checked his phone. No one noticed my hand flexing in my lap like it wanted to escape. 2 days later, footprints appeared beneath my bedroom window. My father stared too long before saying raccoons. That afternoon, a man in a reflective vest checked the gas meter and watched me through the glass without blinking. By Christmas Eve, the house felt sealed with warmth, cookies cooling, sugar and pine in the air, safety thick and fragile. Just after midnight, the quiet sharpened. He stood outside the window, red suit dulled by snow, sack on his shoulder, a finger to his lips. Up close, belief rotted. The beard peeled. His eyes were flat and wet. "Shh, Hannah," he whispered. "Rudolph's hurt. I need hot water." When I cracked the door, cold rushed in, carrying his smell. Wet wool, alcohol, skin. His hand brushed my wrist. "Good girl." When I fumbled with the lock, his voice dropped. "Hurry." Then, snarling, "Open the goddamn door." The door burst inward. My father collided with him. The tree crashed. Ornaments shattered. Bone crunched. Blood slicked the floor. The sack split open. Zip ties, a hunting knife, a Polaroid camera skidding to a stop, tada against a present with my name on it. Police lights erased Christmas. After that, our house decayed without moving. My father slept in the hallway with a bat. My mother nailed the windows shut. Christmas disappeared first. Then they did. I grew up counting locks. December became a vigil. This year, a letter came. Parole. Overcrowding. No apology. Tonight, snow gathers at my window again. A careful tap. "Hannah," he says, voice gentle as a carol. I don't turn on the porch light. The deadbolt is loosened. The floor inside is slick and waiting. My grip tightens around the hammer shaped perfectly to my hand. I open the door wide. "Come in, Santa," I whisper. "I've been good." By 6 in the morning, my apartment had already decided it hated me. The ceiling above my bed was freckled with mold. Green-black blooms spreading outward like slow fireworks. Every time the upstairs neighbor flushed, a brown drip slid down the wall and disappeared behind the radiator. Next door, a man and a woman screamed at each other, trading accusations in exhausted loops. The words blurred into tone. Accusation, denial, impact. Something hit drywall. Something else cried. I lay curled on my side, knees pulled in, because stretching made it worse. My skin crawled like it was infested. Not metaphorically. Ants. Real ants. Marching beneath my skin, biting from the inside. I scratched until my arms burned. And still it didn't stop. My stomach twisted so hard my vision tunneled. Like an engine failing no matter how many times you turned the key. I made it to the sink before I threw up. Nothing solid, just bile and strings of spit that tasted like pennies. When the cramps hit, I slid down the cabinet and pressed my forehead to the cold wood, breathing through clenched teeth while my gut tried to fold itself inside out. Withdrawal doesn't feel dramatic. It feels administrative, every system shutting down at once. By 8, I was sweating through my shirt, though the room was cold. By 10, my phone was slick in my hands from how often I picked it up and put it down. I called Marcy first, straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. We both knew why I was calling. Dylan answered, sighed before I spoke, and said, "I can't." Okay, like he was reciting policy. The third number rang long enough to give me hope, before clicking dead. I stared at the screen until the letters swam. The text from Rico came at dusk. "He's clean. He pays. Don't ask." Words didn't feel like help. They felt like a plank, tossed into dark water. I didn't think about where it came from. I just grabbed it. The neighborhood near Northwest Lovejoy was silent in a way my block never was. Snow softened everything. No sirens, no arguing. Just the hush of money, trees, and heat. When George opened the door, warmth rolled out and hit my face so hard my eyes watered. He looked wrong by being right. Pressed sweater, slacks, clean shoes. His house smelled like cocoa and pine and something floral that reminded me of hotel lobbies. "Before we discuss logistics," George said gently, already guiding me inside, "let's stabilize you." He handed me a mug with both hands. Hot cocoa. Marshmallows. I tried to refuse. He smiled like a manager redirecting an unproductive conversation. "Eva, I don't think proceeding while you're compromised benefits either of us." We sat at the kitchen table for 10 minutes. He asked neutral questions, where I was from, whether I'd eaten. He watched me drink like he was monitoring a training video. When he finally stood, he didn't say, "Come with me." He said, "Let's review the situation." The guest room smelled wrong. Beneath the expensive cologne and cleaner was urine and copper, the way hospitals smell at 3 in the morning when someone doesn't make it. The boy on the bed looked unfinished. His heels dragged when we lifted him, thumping softly against the floorboards, a dull sound that followed us down the hall. "Lack of discipline," George said mildly, adjusting his grip. "Escalation without structure." The bruises on the boy's neck were thumb-shaped, intentional. I focused on the carpet pattern because George was already laying out the syringe like a reward. The drive felt endless because George wouldn't let it be quiet. Christmas music played low. Bing Crosby, Smooth as a Lie. He asked about my goals, my childhood, whether I'd considered vocational training. "You have potential," he said, turning onto an unplowed road while a body lay in the trunk. "But potential requires accountability." At the drop-off point, headlights swept past us, slow, curious. A police cruiser. My foot slipped on the ice and my heart tried to tear its way out of my chest. George steadied me with 2 fingers. "Breathe, no urgency." Snow swallowed everything when we were done. I got clean because I couldn't sleep without seeing that hallway. I built a life that was small, safe, and dull on purpose. Meetings, work, early nights. For 2 years, every silver sedan made my stomach flip. The cards started after that. Thick paper. Cream envelopes, then cookies. I ate half of one before recognizing the cinnamon. I sat on the floor shaking, convinced I'd been poisoned, waiting for my body to shut down. 5 years in, at the grocery store, I saw George again. Bleach, cookies, bulk cocoa mix. He didn't see me, he didn't have to. The photo came last. The scarf was mine. I checked my closet with shaking hands. It wasn't there. On Christmas Eve, music drifted through my door, not knocking, a carol playing softly in the hallway. I came back to 918 Hawthorne Lane 2 days before Christmas, and the door resisted me, the way a body resists being opened after it's gone cold. The wood had swollen again, and I leaned my shoulder into it, felt the grain bite through my coat, and when it finally gave, the hinge shrieked loud enough to climb the staircase ahead of me. Cold air spilled out of the house, sharp and sour, and beneath the faint pine cleaner was something darker. Wet wood, old paper, the unmistakable sweetness of decay. The wallpaper in the foyer had peeled further since the funeral. Long strips curling away from the wall, gray and yellow underneath, damp to the touch. And when I pressed a finger to it, the paper came away in my hand, the plaster beneath feeling soft. My name is Marianne Holt. I was 34 that Christmas, back in my childhood home because selling it felt worse than staying. Boxes crowded the living room, half filled and sagging, their bottoms bowing as if the floor were breathing under them. And the carpet smelled wrong. Stale, faintly sour, like something had soaked into it years ago and never dried. The house responded to me immediately. A board popped upstairs. The refrigerator clicked off mid-hum. Somewhere inside the walls, something shifted. A low adjustment, like a throat clearing, and I didn't speak, because it felt like the wrong move. The hallway photos were still there. My parents' wedding portrait, Lena and me in matching sweaters, my father in his Browns jacket, and as I walked past, glass caught the light in fragments. An eye, a cheek, my own mouth opening and closing as I breathed. The reflections never showing my full body at once. Lena, my sister, arrived just before dark with a casserole wrapped in foil and apology, and we ate at the kitchen table beneath the buzzing fluorescent light. She kept her coat on, wouldn't look at me, and said I shouldn't stay. I told her I had to. Her fork scraped the plate over and over, and she kept glancing toward the doorway that led to the stairs before finally saying she wouldn't go up there. When I asked why, Lena told me she used to hear it too. When we were kids, after Mom went to bed, slow footsteps. Pacing, always the same path. She said she thought it was Dad at first, then thought it was me, but every time she checked, I was asleep and Dad was snoring. When I asked why she never told me, she said she had and that I'd told her to stop making things up, and that felt accurate. She stood abruptly, chair legs screaming against tile, told me not to stay, her hand already on the door. After Lena left, the house adjusted again. The next morning, the mailman, Arthur, came by, his boots crunching up the drive before stopping short when he saw me. He said I was back and asked if my mother was home too, and my scraper slipped from my hand when I said no. Arthur frowned, said he must have been mistaken, that he'd seen someone standing in the front window the night before, that the curtains had been open. That afternoon, I unpacked decorations, noticed the mantel box was heavier than I remembered, and when I pulled out the stockings, there were 3. That night, the radio turned on by itself. Voices and sounds bleeding into the room, and over the next days, the house rearranged itself. Doors opening, rooms holding cold, time slipping, until the attic revealed photographs of me asleep and watching myself live. When I ran, the house stretched and resisted, and when the police finally came, they found no crawl space at all, only a ladder nailed shut from the inside decades ago. I left Ohio that morning, but every Christmas Eve at 11:47 p.m., The radio still turns on. Sometimes I wake with bruises shaped like fingers or pine needles in my mouth when I cough. The house is still standing, and it still knows my name. I was 28 that Christmas, working the overnight shift at Northridge Storage because empty places feel safer than people. Until the silence starts noticing you back. My name is Callie Mercer, and I volunteered for Christmas Eve because double pay feels like mercy when you're running from your own life. Northridge Storage sat off Elk River Road, rows of low metal buildings buried in snow, the wind slamming into roll-up doors, hard enough to make the place groan and settle like something alive. Inside the tiny security office, fluorescent lights buzzed while burnt coffee steamed in my hands. I cycled the cameras out of habit, box A, B, C, D, snow smearing the lenses, the radio murmuring Christmas carols through dead air. I stared at my phone without unlocking it, texted Evan a neutral Merry Christmas I knew he wouldn't answer, and hovered over my dad's contact before closing it again. Every half hour I logged a timestamp, and the quiet felt heavier each time. At 10:19 p.m., the monitor chimed. Unit D17 accessed. My stomach dropped. That wasn't a glitch. D17 belonged to Harold Brinks, an old man who always waved too long and brought me hard candies, insisting they were from a place that didn't exist anymore. I remembered sealing that unit shut with his daughter back in October, her hands shaking as she signed, her perfume trying to hide grief. I called Derek, but he laughed it off, told me sensors glitch and ghosts don't pay rent. I walked to Block D alone. Snow needled my wrists. My boots crunched too loudly, and the corridors stretched straight and narrow like gun barrels. The overhead lights hummed and flickered, doors bowing slightly like ribs under skin. When I stopped beneath Unit D17, the fluorescent light hesitated. That was when I heard it. Not singing, not quite. A warped music box melody threaded with my name. Sleep in heavenly, Callie, peace. The padlock was warm when I touched it, and then the door rattled and lifted on its own. Inside, an unplugged Christmas tree glowed softly. Boxes were stacked neatly, each one labeled December 25th. Different years, same date. Folding chair sat at the back, its seat still indented, and on the concrete floor lay a phone playing a voicemail. It was my mother's voice, begging me not to go there, even though she had been dead for 3 years. The lights blew out behind me one by one. I ran. I remember fumbling at a keypad that wouldn't respond, lockers knocking from the inside like they were counting, and then nothing. I woke on cold concrete inside an empty unit, daylight leaking through a narrow gap above the door. My boots were soaked. Wet footprints led away from me down the corridor, stopping directly in front of my office chair. The police said there was no sign of forced entry. Derek wouldn't meet my eyes. I quit 2 days later. Northridge Storage still stands, quiet and unchanged. But every Christmas since, at exactly 10:19 p.m., my phone lights up. A voicemail, time-stamped, next year.